Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again now on our 6th episode of the Pizza Hotline podcast. And just to quickly recap what happened in the last episode, we touched a lot about technology and just how it affects the pizza industry and how technology can be disruptive, but it could also be a supplemental factor to your business. And how that works within the industry right now, and how to kind of see ahead and to be relevant and to be there. The topic for this episode kind of ties into the subject matter a little bit as well, but more of it's almost like a philosophical side of it. We're going to be talking about the importance of vision in the pizza industry and how do we stay ahead. So almost talking about that same thing of being ahead of the curve. But I guess to start the conversation and to do it a little bit differently, I actually wanted to start with a quote. So here's the quote that I found. The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. And have you heard of that quote before?
No, I haven't.
Yeah,
you have.
Have you?
Yeah, I thought so.
Say that again.
The only thing worse than being blind is having sight but no vision. So it's actually a quote by Helen Keller, and I remember it was really interesting how I first heard of this quote. It was I was actually sitting at church on a Sunday morning, and it's just one of those moments where you hear something, you're just kind of like, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
You're just kind of blown away by that.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know who Helen Keller is, here's something really quick that I pulled from her wiki. Helen Keller was an American author, political activist, and lecturer. She was the first deaf and blind person to earn a Bachelor's of Arts degree, which is very impressive considering her story, and just kind of because I know that there's a movie on her and stuff like that, and just watching that and hearing that story, it's like, how do you learn how to communicate in this way when you don't?
Wow.
Oh yeah, she's got an incredibly inspiring story.
Yeah,
that's one of those people that if you ever think you've got a tough road or you've got an insurmountable problem, you just look up her arc and it puts yours in perspective.
Really puts that into perspective. And so I guess like when you first hearing that quote, what are your first initial thoughts on that?
Well, I think, like you said, we kind of touched on some of this in the last podcast, but in that light, it can be very true, right? Having the idea of having sight but no vision is kind of what we were talking about when we were saying, like, go in with your criteria, go in with your action plan, know yourself. If you don't know your place and you don't know what you want to do, it can be very difficult to survive in a market, especially a market as tight as pizza or, restaurants in general. You need to know where you want to go. You might not know every step, but you need to know where you want to end up. You need to have that vision long term. Otherwise, again, good luck to you. But I don't know how far you'll be able to get.
Right, exactly. And I sort of feel that having a vision and also having a goal, they're almost very similar by definition. But I also see that, having a vision is like looking further beyond and imagining yourself at that end game. But having goals and setting goals is like the process of you getting there.
Yeah.
And so what are some things that you can recommend to stay on track on reaching your visions and hitting those goals?
I think you have to break down you have to know what your vision is, and then you have to have goals in place that are achievable, first of all.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, a long-term goal that is very difficult to feel good about because you're never achieving it, actually, it hurts morale. So you have a vision and you have short-term goals.
Yeah. Right?
Achievable 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. And okay, here's the steps that we got to achieve within this, to get there. Boom, 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 boom. I think that's probably the best way to get there. Just having a vision in itself without a path to get there, without concrete goals, isn't going to get you anywhere. Because truthfully too, it's like, you have a vision, you write a business plan. Well, we all know what happens with business plans. Yeah. They change. So I think you need the vision, goals, and that are achievable, realistic. Throw it on a timetable and try to keep nailing it off. one step at a time.
Yeah, because I feel like when you have a vision for something, not all the time when you finally get there is it going to ever be what you first envisioned it to be.
That's right.
And so it's always keeping in mind that having a vision, that you have to be able to adjust as you go.
You have to be flexible.
Yeah, the vision needs to be kind of like your lightning rod, right? So if you're the leader, you need to have the clearest picture of that vision, but your followers, if that's your employees or your customers or whatever frame you're looking at it through, they also need to be able to rely on your vision. So your customers need to trust the vision and believe the vision of your company. Your employees need to trust that vision and trust that what they're doing and what you're doing is best in accomplishing that vision.
Yeah.
And you need to know what you really want that vision to be, because vision can be different things to different people too. Some companies will make their vision their ideal world, right? So the vision of this company is to be in a world where this and this happens, and that's okay. Some people's visions are specific long-term goals. So our vision is to have a restaurant in every city from coast to coast to coast. That's a vision too, right? But I think the key point to it is what you both said, that it changes and that the world changes in between today and the actualization of your vision. So if you don't have a strong picture of what you want to achieve, when you get up in the morning and you go about your day and things come at you, I don't know how you overcome obstacles if you're not overcoming them for something, right? And I think that, again, going back to the quote, I think that's one of the things that I take away from it is, having sight but no vision is overcoming whatever comes through your life in a day, but not knowing why and not knowing what you're trying to do. I think people need something to work for, something to live for, something to have fun for. If they don't have that,
it seems very short term, right?
Yeah.
Having sight without no vision, it's almost like living day to day without knowing where you want to be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. Think about that, right?
Because it's like really,
it's almost no purpose.
Because if you don't have a vision, then you have no sense of direction.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you can't just blindly go through your business, go through your life, and just try to say I think this is the way to go.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But some companies get stuck in that trap, right?
Yeah.
They get so reactive that they stop being proactive. They stop making moves that set themselves up for a better future. And a better future, again, means what? It means tomorrow that is more in line with your vision than today was, right? So you need that forward thinking. You need that benchmark of success. And then you can act in ways that push you more towards that. But again, the steps to get there are going to change a million times over. There's that saying that the plan is nothing. Planning is everything, but the plan is nothing. And what that means is you have to go through the process of planning and setting yourself up for variables, knowing that once you get in, new things are going to come along all the time. But that's not reason to give up, right? So again, I just think of our days and the obstacles that will come our way in a work day and the obstacles that will come through anybody in our office's day. If you don't know why you're fixing that problem or coming up with that solution, one, how do you actually come up with a solution? How do you know that what you're doing is going to work? And two, what's the point? What's the point of getting up in the day and coming in and answering an email from somebody who has a problem if you don't know that helping that person and solving that problem actually achieves anything?
Yeah.
And again, you don't know if what you're recommending is actually the right thing, because everything has to fall off of that central vision.
Yeah.
So
do you think that, I guess just even in the smaller things of the day, like certain tasks, they have to kind of serve that purpose towards the vision and the goal that you have?
Of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if I don't know if any of the listeners or the viewers have ever read Principles by Ray Dalio. Okay. One of the things he talks about is kind of like first order, second order, third order consequences and benefits, right? So you use the analogy of working out. Nobody or most people don't enjoy the exhaustion and the exertion that comes from lifting weights when they're lifting those weights.
Mhm.
Many people enjoy the positive consequences that come from being in better shape after a few months, right? So if you're going to the gym because you want to fit your clothes to fit you better, you enjoy the second order consequence of having clothes that fit better, but you don't necessarily enjoy the first order consequence of dieting and exercising and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't have the vision, in that case, your vision is what? I want my clothes to fit me better.
Mhm.
You're not going to necessarily overcome those first order obstacles. You're not going to go to the gym because what am I getting out of going to the gym? If I don't like sweating, why would I sign up willingly to sweat? It's not something I'm going to do,
Yeah.
right? So in our business, you see that a lot, right? If a customer is upset, why would I put myself in a situation to have an unpleasant experience with that customer? Well, it's because I want to make that experience right, because I want to have a business that gives excellent customer service because, right? So again, I think it's fundamental to everything you do. If you don't have an end game or a goal in mind,
Mhm.
you're not going to do all the things that you probably should be doing in a day. And you're just kind of, again, you're going to kind of go through the motions without actually, you're going to have sight, but no vision.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Quite interesting. Do you guys read a lot of books on, like, I guess in terms of like more business aspect, but also have you read more books about like talking about goal setting and brewing up your vision?
I don't read any, I guess, one theme in particular. Like I don't read a lot of, business philosophy
Right.
or goal setting or this or that. But when interesting books come my way, I try to read them. Principles is a great example of a really fascinating book.
Who's by?
Ray Dalio. So
Ray Dalio.
he started Bridgewater Investments when I think in the 70s, I want to say. It's
Yeah.
now the largest investment company on earth.
Wow.
And it's part his personal story. So he had a couple really rough goes
Yeah.
at Bridgewater. He had to fire all of his staff, I think, on 2 separate occasions. And then it's also part the principles that he's lived and worked by that he believes has given him the success that he has today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's reading books like that I find fascinating because you're getting front row seats to what someone attributes their success to, right? So
Yeah.
that perspective is so invaluable.
Yeah. And I think also even thinking about in terms of vision, when you have a company and when you have your own business and like with all your other employees that are there too, it's really just aligning that and making sure that everyone knows what that is. And so that we're all pulling towards the same thing, right? And it's not just one person trying to drag, but it's everyone leading together and following together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you touched on a good one. And that's something that we focus a lot on in our interview process is what is your vision as the person applying for this role, and does it reconcile with our vision? And sometimes someone's vision in a company is I want to make as much money as I can in an 8-hour workday and go home.
Mhm.
Does that reconcile with the company's vision? If it's a large organization with very, fixed roles and high scheduling, then it might. If it's a small organization where things are just getting started or you're in a high growth phase, somebody who's looking for structure and who's looking for, less adverse day-to-days, it's probably not reconciling. So that idea of your vision and my vision need to be similar. They don't need to be the exact same,
Yeah.
but we have to be on the same wavelength because otherwise you're not going to be fulfilled in a day or I'm not going to be fulfilled in a day.
And the boat is getting stretched.
Mhm.
The boat needs to sail in the same direction,
Right.
right? We all need to be rowing together in the same direction.
Yeah. Because when one piece of it is not in harmony, it's
No,
like it lets
exactly.
like the whole thing doesn't
It's-
operate as it should.
It's harder to get there.
Right.
It's a lot harder.
Yeah. Because
We usually still get there, but it's just not smooth.
yeah, it'll take you a lot longer.
Exactly.
For sure. I do want to ask. So, what type of visions do you guys have for, Pizza Hotline? Where do you kind of see this company going in, like, from 5 years from now, even?
Well, I think growth is definitely in the cards now,
Mm-hmm.
where in the past it was less so. I think, I think we have a very great offering, if you want to call it an offering, and we probably could have, should have embarked on the path of growth sooner. But saying that, I don't regret that we haven't. I think we just have continued to get stronger and stronger internally and know our systems better, and which allow you to, if you want to say, leapfrog to the next phase. So definitely growth is going to be probably, looking back 5 years from now, saying, yeah, that was good. We and not just growth for the sake of growth.
Yeah.
I'm talking like sustained growth, managed growth, calm growth,
right?
Not hairy, pull your hair out of your head type of growth. No, I'm not interested in that.
Right. And so I guess just playing off of that with the growth, especially internally. So I guess what areas do you feel that you want to work on? Is it just more overarching in general, or just?
Well, the last couple of years, I think it's fair to say that we've worked on our people a lot. We've tried to build a team that will be able to grow with us, and together we could carry this to the next level, if for lack of a better word, you can say level. And a lot of it's been what I call base building. You build the foundation, and you make sure that it's going to be able to support adding floors or units on top.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, because you asked, is there anything specific that we're growing in? Every single business unit that we have is always under review, and in the sense that we're always looking to innovate something to either, and I think we talked about this in the last one, but give people more of an opportunity to innovate as opposed to administrate, and give our businesses an opportunity to grow, right? So that's our style of management. We believe strongly in always innovating everything all the time. Some companies don't do that. Some companies go, okay, this is our innovation hub, and everything else, just don't screw it up. Keep the numbers in line, keep everything in order, and we're good. We don't like that approach. We don't feel we need to take that approach. So everything's always under review and always open for more consideration. But I think the most fundamental piece in growth is your people. And that sounds, sometimes businesses say that in a very disingenuous way, but if you really think about it, again, you can have all the structures in the world and all the policies and procedures in the world, but if you don't have good people, and a good person really means a good fit, that aligned vision, you're never going to reach your capacity. You're never going to accomplish everything that you could have otherwise accomplished. So for us, it's been a lot of really trying to find those passionate people, those innovative people, those people that want to do things at a high level of excellence, and put them in places where their vision and our vision is most aligned in the organization. Right. We talk about our goals as business owners or the people running the business. My goal would be to be able to come into the office one day and have just a team of highly passionate, innovative, excellent people that tell me what's coming next in the horizon, that lead their spheres with those same traits, so that the business is really sustaining itself, the business is growing itself, and the people are growing themselves, right? So it's not an easy thing to do, and I think that's why a lot of companies almost take the easy way out for growth. So if you're in a franchise, they go, just open more stores, right? That's growth to us. That's success to us.
Yeah.
Just get more stores, get 100 more stores than we had last year, and we're the best company in the world. Well, no, that's part of growth. But the other part of growth, if you're really trying to last and you're really trying to sustain, is, are your people valued? Are your people satisfied? Do they like what they're doing? Can they continue to grow in what they're doing? Are your franchisees similarly valued, satisfied, happy? Are your customers valued, satisfied, happy? So anything that causes a betterment of one of those things is always under review in our company.
Right. True. I do want to ask, so how often do you guys, like, I guess, with the upper management, how often do you guys get together, sit down, and have like those goal setting meetings?
Every 15 minutes, bro.
Yeah.
I think the vision is, one of those long-term strategic, meeting sessions, and that doesn't change much. It really doesn't.
Yeah.
I think the goals, like the knockoffs, the steps that you need to take to get there, happens every day.
Yeah.
Truthfully, so you're talking about those every day.
Yeah.
And again, as we've spoken in our earlier podcasts, with the pace of change in technology, you have to be constantly on it and constantly looking at new this and new that, and is this a better way? Is that a better way?
Yeah.
To get us to where we want to get to.
Right. And it's funny how you guys say like that kind of conversation is going on every single day. It's because when I see your offices are like right beside each other, and it's like the open
We
door.
have a door in between.
Do you hear the yelling and screaming sometimes?
So it's like, hey, Dad.
But see, I think for us, our philosophy to it is that those alignment meetings should have to happen as little as possible.
Right.
But the progress meetings, the project meetings, the other stuff should be able to happen all the time. Right. And it's the idea that, again, have people on your team that are leaders in their specialty and have them fundamentally aligned with the vision of the company. Then there's no friction. Then when you have a 5-minute meeting, that 5-minute meeting is 5 minutes of value added for both sides. You go and you execute. But if there's fundamentally friction, if somebody doesn't understand what we want to do, or we don't understand what they want to do, you're never going to have enough alignment meetings or strategic positioning meetings or vision meetings for the team to click, right? So we try to get through a lot of that in our interviewing processes. And we have, at the beginning of the month, we had a strategic meeting again to kind of rejig people back to, okay, this is the big picture. But ideally, you want to have people in your organization that intuitively get the big picture like you, so that you can all just in your day, you can work towards that and seize the opportunities that come in achieving that. And that's what we really mean when the plans change. So one of our goals is consistently excellent customer service. What that translates to, it changes every single day as technology changes, as our customers change, as the city that we're in changes, as we go into new markets. You can't make the perfect PowerPoint pitch for here's our strategic vision on customer service excellence. So you can, but it's disingenuous. You're better off having people that just fundamentally, almost intangibly, are aligned on that, and then have them be functional experts in different parts of the business. So you're in videography. Yeah. You want, at least we believe you want from the interviews, you want excellent customer experiences, and you specialize in videography. I never need to worry that when you're making those videos, you're not thinking about how is the customer going to have the best experience here. That's alignment division. Some people get jobs because they like videography, but they don't want to, they don't like talking to other people. They don't want to interact.
Or they don't align with the ownership or the management, right? People have different biases. People have different views. That's not a good thing.
Yeah, and again, you're never gonna find your clone, and you shouldn't want to find your clone, but you want highly motivated individuals that can come in and bring their own perspectives and add to that shared collective. And if you can do that, then when are your vision meetings happening? They're all the time. Every conversation is an alignment decision.
It should live every day. You don't turn it on and off. You're living and breathing it through every decision that gets made in a day.
So there was while you were talking, there was something that really kind of clicked in my head, was I guess in the hiring process of this, and when you're trying to look to expand your team, especially when you have a certain specific vision and goal in mind, it's very much so asking those questions so that you can direct the conversation where you talk about your vision, but you also find out if they're going to be, a good fit for your team. And so it's just like I was just thinking about that. So what is something? Let's say if I'm looking to hire someone, I'm trying to find someone. What is something that I would want to touch on in order to find the person that I'm looking for?
Touch on, or what are the qualities you're looking
Yeah, I guess qualities in terms of
Like, what do you do in the interview process?
what do you do in that
That's what he's asking.
during that process to find that right fit?
Well, qualities, trust is number one,
Mm-hmm.
right? I would say that's first and foremost. Takes a while to really see if you can.
Mm-hmm.
You do have faith and trust in the individual that they'll be transparent, open, honest, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's first and foremost. And then the other side is, skill set. Does the skill set match? Is there a fit with the required position? So and then the next thing is all about personality, and I think we're learning that more and more. Hire the person. They can learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you need of course, saying that you need a minimum level of skill, right? You have to know how to write and read and type, and right. So you need the minimum required skill level, but hiring the right personality, I think, is very important also.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if I was giving advice to make hiring decisions to someone who maybe has never done it before, I would say, one, like he said, what skills are actually required. If you're hiring a computer programmer and they don't know how to use a keyboard, well, they just can't be a programmer.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hiring a marketing person, a graphic designer, they don't know how to use Photoshop, well, they're not a graphic designer,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's relatively easy to think of the lists of things that position will need. And something I typically do as well, just as a double check, is I just Google that position, roles and responsibilities, graphic designer roles and responsibilities, videographer roles and responsibilities.
Right.
I know as the business owner what I want that person to be able to do, but sometimes just, again, that simple Google search crystallizes it in a more easily digestible way for you to put in your posting or whatever it is. But I think, one, be very clear on the skills. Mm-hmm. And try to gain as much of an understanding of competency levels that you think are important. So is typing speed important, or is just being able to use a computer important? Is a certain level of proficiency on Excel important, or just, again, that general user knowledge? And then I think ultimately the more important piece is on the person and the personality behind that person rather than the skills. The skills should kind of be your first level, filter. Mm-hmm. But to really assess if the person's the right fit, I think you just be as brutally transparent as you can be with them right from the onset. And that's something that I do a lot. And I think it works better than the other way, which is, I think, quite a disingenuous interview process where the company is trying to make themselves look like this utopia to every candidate. And the candidate is trying to make themselves look perfect to every company. Mm-hmm. When the reality is nobody's going to step in day one into a role and knock it out of the park. Yeah. It's just not going to happen. There's knowledge that needs to be learned. There's context that needs to be passed on. People have periods of time where they slowly add to their value for that organization, and where that organization adds value to that person. So
it starts from a negative.
Yeah, it always starts
from we're losing money on an employee, and then at some point it crosses over, right? So because in the beginning, really, there's an investment that's being made on our part. Well, on
the employer's part.
On the employer's part, if they really want to, if they're really in the game, right? If you're on a production line making widgets, I guess there's not. But in our business, we look at it as we need to invest in these people. We need to help them get up to the point where they're really good at what they do. They're passionate, they care, And it's at that point where now we start to benefit as the employer. So there's this, you're below, here's zero, you're below, it's cost, there's a cost. At some point you'd like to cross over zero. And now there's an actual value add that takes place. And there's a positive contribution to that position.
Yeah, so you have to kind of check your own perspectives in that as the business owner or as the person hiring, because you know you're inside the company, you have this contextual understanding already. How long does it take you to do elements of the job that you're hiring for? And then go, okay, if I didn't know where the bathroom was in the office, how long would it take me? That's that beginning phase. That's that incubation phase in a new employee. So really what you're looking for is you're looking for the attitude and the values that will allow that person to get through that incubation phase and will justify what your investment is in that person. Because again, there's very rarely a time when someone can come in and day one deliver more value in a brand new job in a brand new company than the company is paying out to that individual. That's just the reality of the return, right? So I think as the employer, you have to realize that. You have to be realistic to that. So you mitigate your chances of a negative investment by having clear criteria for what that person needs to be able to do day one, and have clear criteria for how that person needs to act and what they should be believing in and what their value system should be and how it aligns to yours day one. And then everything else becomes semantic. So a lot of the time, people will ask us, what does this job pay? And I turn it back around and I go, well, what can you do tomorrow? And what can you do down the road? And can we chart that course? And we'll pay what we should pay for the value that we're getting, right? So basically what you're asking someone is, are you willing to bet on yourself? And are you willing to be transparent with me today?
And do you have the courage? Show us the confidence.
Right. So the money becomes secondary.
Right.
But already in that conversation, you have a very clear understanding of the type of person you're dealing with. I've had people apply for jobs with zero relevant work experience and tell me that they want $300,000 starting salaries, and they're not willing to scale up to that. They want to start tomorrow because they know that they're going to add that much value at least day one. That person's a sociopath. You don't want them in your organization.
Yeah.
We look for the type of person who wants to grow because we want to grow, who wants to do things excellently because we want to do things excellently too, who wants to challenge themselves to find better ways to do what they were doing today, tomorrow. Because we believe all of those things are important to our organization to sustain long-term growth. So the interview process very much reflects that. At times it's challenging. At times I'll ask you a question that I know you don't have all of the context to answer. And I'm less concerned with what actually comes out of your mouth and more concerned with how do you size it up, right? Are you humble? Are you honest? Are you open? Are you hardworking? Are you willing to put the effort in here? If the answer to that's yes, then that's a team member that I am more than happy to invest the time and energy in once you come on to actually learn how to do the job. But if the answer to that's no, we probably don't proceed to an offer. So it's a bit of a different way from how a lot of people do interviews. A lot of the time it's, this person needs to be able to do X, Y, and Z. Show me your resume. So did you do X, Y, and Z in these previous roles? Okay, how much money do you want? Here's your offer. You start. We try to focus a lot more on the values of the person. And again, like we've been talking about, how aligned is their vision to our vision? And if there's an alignment there, we believe that our systems can be learnt, our policies and protocols and procedures can be taught, and a person who fundamentally is on the same page as us will be able to execute as a great team member.
Yeah. So this is why it's so important to have your clear and defined vision, because it's more than just having the vision. It trickles down into your everyday, how you run your business, how you find people that will be aligned to your purpose and what you want to do. Yeah. And so being able to cohesively have that, and just being able to have that go downstream into your company is very, very important. And I guess I kind of want to drive that conversation of having that vision. And now, how do we stay ahead now? We have our vision, we have our goal. So what are some steps, especially for like in our industry right now, because we're in the food industry and the pizza industry. So where do we begin? What are some things that you've kind of seen for yourself where you feel like I need to get ahead on this,
Get ahead on this.
or like more so get ahead in the industry so that I
Well,
can stay?
I think it's just iterations. There's no silver bullet. There's no one magic trick that does that. It's in a business, every business, and there's no difference between the pizza business or any other business. There's different parts of it, and there needs to be continual improvement and progress within each area of the business, and that could be marketing, accounting, technology, as we've spoken with, right? Technology, purchasing, you name it. So in every one of those business, to get ahead, it's small iterations at a time. And if you continue with that approach over time, you're ahead. Your margins are wider than the average, someone else in your industry. Your sales are stronger. It just happens. That's the magic. The magic is small iterations, continual process innovation, process improvement. That really, for me, that's how you make it happen.
Right. And I do want to ask: was there ever a time that you felt like you had to kind of fight just to stay relevant within this industry?
I feel that way every day.
Every day. Yeah.
I honestly do.
Yeah.
I honestly do.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it helps to really benchmark yourself against your peers, because then it puts it into better perspective.
Yeah. So
right?
how do you fight that? How do you kind of overcome it? What are some things that you do?
Fear is good.
Mm-hmm.
Fear of falling behind, fear of losing share, fear of not being around 5 years from now. It's a pretty good motivator. Yeah. And in this business, in the pizza business in particular, we know what the drop-off rate is. We know what the success rate is. And there's a lot of closures. There's a lot of businesses that in restaurants in particular that just don't make it. I think the ratio is 90% or 95%. So the fear of that alone for me has kept me driven.
Yeah.
And so it's a good motivator. But now, how do you stay ahead? Process improvement, constant in all areas of your business.
Yeah, you just need to channel it. You need to be objective and transparent. Again, like fear is not inherently a bad thing, and I think anybody who's a manager should have some dose of fear or consideration to them. It's like when you talk about firing someone. There's the saying that if you don't feel bad firing someone, you shouldn't be the one firing someone. Yeah. If you don't feel concerned for your team and for your team's future, then you shouldn't be leading the team, because you're going to make bad decisions, right? So I also think that there's this idea out there that, big CEOs, they're just always bold and they're always decisive and they never make a mistake and they never second guess, and everybody's Harvey Specter walking into, the boardroom. Yeah. That's not true. And again, if it is, I'd probably take less stock in the supremely confident guy than the guy or the girl who's sitting there and going, okay, maybe I'm missing something. Let's see the analysis. Let me get to the bottom of this, right? So I think you have to realize that fear is just a going concern in the game,
right? And
channel it into productive things. So gauge your level of fear. I know, for example, I'm always to a certain extent uncertain about a new candidate when I hire them. But I've been able to benchmark what my kind of baseline uncertainty is and realize that every decision you make, there's uncertainty in the externality. There's the uncertainty in the what you don't know. That's okay. If that's where your fear is coming from, you're probably making a good decision now. But if you're concerned over something you can get an answer to, go get your answer. Shore up your confidence and then make your move, right? There's that quote. There's the things you know, the things you don't know, the things you don't know.
Right.
If you're scared of things you know, you've got a objective, quantifiable problem. Fix it. Right. If there's things you don't know, you've got an objective, quantifiable problem. Go figure out what you don't know and fix it. If you're just concerned of something you don't know, that like, I don't know why, I got a bad feeling about this, that's probably where you need to dissociate your head from your heart and do what is logically seems like the best thing here, right? Yeah. So again, that's what I mean by channeling that fear. Use it as kind of an indicator that there might be something more you should do here, and be self-aware enough to realize when it's just a normal response to the situation because it's a high stakes decision or it's a critical decision or whatever, right?
Yeah. And if that's a very important part of just realizing for yourself as a business owner to stay ahead is that, you're going to have that fear. It's how you use it and how you perceive it and what you're able to do with it. Yeah, because if you're just going to let fear just stare you in the face and paralyze you, you're never going to
do anything.
No,
yeah. And you hear about the other sayings, right? Like fortune favors the bold. You have to be good to be lucky. Blah blah blah. Looking back, so many people look at these companies like Apple develops the iPod, and goes, wow, that was bold and that was visionary, and they got lucky, and it was the perfect storm that created the iPod. There was a lot. I guarantee you, Steve Jobs had a lot of fear at a lot of points in his progression to come up with that product. But he was able to take that fear, learn from that fear, and then compartmentalize that fear and proceed with his plan. Yeah. Right? It's like in day-to-day life, if you're stressed about studying for an exam or you're stressed about an appointment or whatever it may be, that stress is really at the end of the day just an indicator to you that this is something you should be thinking about. And then you need to be able to put that to the side and go act on it. Fear for a manager or fear for a business owner is the same thing, right? It's just an indication that there's something there that you're intuitively not yet sure about, and you need to go process that and then move forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to ask this question. So what are some of the aspects of your business that you feel like you've excelled in to stay ahead of the game and really be where you are right now?
That's tough. We usually don't, as a company, give ourselves a lot of credit on things we do well. So I don't know.
I think even personally sometimes.
Well, if we benchmark against our competitors, I think on average our sales volume per store is higher than our competitors. Our margins are higher than our competitors. Our returns to our franchisees are higher than competitors on average. Okay?
Our product quality is definitely higher.
Product quality is definitely higher. Yeah. So, I think we do well on a lot of fronts. Yeah. We really do. As Antonio said, we're always hard on ourselves because we're always looking to improve. We're always looking for opportunities to be better tomorrow than we were yesterday. Yeah. And that's a good thing.
And we also don't benchmark ourselves to our industry. And I think that's a really important lesson to people who really want to make something different that lasts is don't just look at your direct competitor. So we don't hold ourselves to Domino's. We hold ourselves to the best company in the world on that issue. Mm-hmm. So if it's culture, let's say company culture, we might hold ourselves to articles that we read about Netflix that have an interesting company culture. We might hold ourselves to a financial services company like Bridgewater that has an interesting company culture. We don't necessarily go, oh, we're as good or better than Domino's, therefore we're good.
That's not good enough.
Product quality is the same thing. You look at how does your pizza hold up against other pizzas, but how does the quality of your food hold up compared to the restaurant industry? How does your customer experience hold up to the best experience providers out of any business? And if you do that, you really set yourself ahead of the typical pack. You really start to notice trends before the industry catches up to those trends. You're definitely in a more fearful position because you're holding yourself to the highest possible standard at all times across the board. But if you can make yourself comfortable enough to look at that and go, okay, but now that I'm objectively looking at opportunities to be better, I can actually go be better. If you can do it, you can really differentiate yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like, as moving forward, when, companies are advancing, these business owners they're growing, and I feel like at some point, they're probably going to hit a wall. and they'll feel like they're just on this plateau. And I guess what's your plan of action there? Like, let's say if you were to hit a wall and you feel like you're on that plateau, what's your plan of action to kind of get over that?
35 years in business, we've hit many walls.
Yeah.
Right. So I always like to say, focus on the fundamentals. Go back to the basics. What can we do better? And you start from the customer's perspective.
Yeah.
And you say, it could be, a while back we had an issue with our cheese. This is going back years, right? Mm-hmm. And we kind of plateaued. I would say we plateaued, and somehow the quality of the cheese, we didn't change our specs, but the manufacturer was going through some troubling times, and the quality of the cheese started to degrade. And what I mean by the quality is, there's that nice creamy cheese, and then there's that, have you ever had a pizza where it's hard and dry?
Oh yeah.
So it went from being that nice creamy cheese to slowly, and it happened over time, became very hard and dry. And so you go back to basics, you look at everything, you look at it from the ground up, and you say, okay, am I missing anything? What can we do better? And in this case, we found it was the cheese. Mm-hmm. And so we were all over it it's funny because it's staring at you in the face, but it's happening so slow that you don't really realize it until you start you take your pictures from a year ago of your product and finished product, and you look at it now and you go, oh, wait a second here. There's a huge difference.
Yeah.
So you get caught from time to time, but focus on the fundamentals, focus on the basics, make sure you've got all that covered properly.
Yeah, definitely. It's always important to kind of
absolutely
go back to the basics. Because then you see
quality and service.
Well, look at what's most important in those basics too, right? That's something that we focus on all the time is what's the bottleneck here, right? So if we're hitting a wall, there's something where our resources are unable to break through that wall. There's one point of that wall that is specifically causing us to stop. Mm-hmm. What is it? So you might, if you don't look at things through the frame of reference of a bottleneck, problems can seem very insurmountable, because what's your problem? It might be 4 or 5 different things. And then how do you solve 4 or 5 different things? You can probably just end up getting flustered and give up. But if you look at those 4 or 5 different things and you go, but there's one thing here more than any of the others that is inhibiting progress, that's where I put my energy. That's what I fix. So in that case, the bottleneck was quality of cheese.
Yeah.
It was nothing. There could have been a million other smaller things, but the biggest problem causing the biggest, lack of result in that case was cheese. So you fix cheese. And then your wall might still be there, but it moves a couple feet back and a new bottleneck presents itself. And you fix that one and your wall moves back another couple feet. You fix that one and it keeps moving, right? Mm-hmm. People say that about goals too. You never really feel like you've satisfied a goal. You feel like the goalposts just kind of move back a little bit. There's always one thing at the end of the day that's preventing you from taking one step forward. And if you can focus on those things, you can really make serious gains. And a lot of the time too, it's not like those bottlenecks aren't presented in, like he said before, in like quick fixes. They're presented in usually foundational pieces of your business that have gone astray over a period of time. So in that one, it was supply chain. The cheese supplier was eroding the standards that we had set slowly enough that nobody really visually noticed until a certain period of time had gone past. Other times you hear companies where they go, sales are down, number of return customers are low. What's the solution? Let's put another $5 million into marketing. Yeah. We would never do something like that, because what it's telling you is that there's bad service in your store for repeat customers to stop coming back. And to go put another $5 million into marketing is to go get 5 million, let's say, new customers that try you, have a bad experience, and then also don't come back. So you have to lift the hood up and go, oh, there's something wrong in our training at the very beginning of this process that we need to change that's coming up over here. If you asked us what the biggest takeaway from this podcast would be, it would probably be to if you're the business owner or you're the leader, check yourself throughout your day, throughout your week, throughout your month. Is what you're doing right now aligned with what your vision is? If it's not, you should stop doing it. You should do something that is aligned with what your vision is. If you're an employee in a company and you ask yourself that question and you don't know what the vision is, you need to ask your owners or your business leaders, what is my vision here? What is the vision of my department, my organization, etc.? And if they can't answer that, you might want to reconsider where you're working at and why you're working there. And as a customer, what is the vision for me as a customer? What's important to me? What kind of a world do I want to live in? And do I like the vision of the companies that I interact with? If I use Facebook, do I like Facebook's vision? If I don't, maybe I should stop using it. If I like what Pizza Hotline's doing, maybe I should try to order from them. So I think, again, your quote at the beginning from Helen Keller on what is your vision and having sight but not having that vision. If you find yourself in a situation where you have sight, you're going through the motions, but you don't have that vision, you don't really know why, you should be thinking about that. You should be thinking about how you can get your day-to-day more aligned with your high-level goal.
Right. Definitely. Jared, do you have any final thoughts to kind of summarize?
I think Antonio wrapped that and summarized that up quite nicely, actually.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've now made it to the end of our 6th episode of the Pizza Hotline podcast. It was really refreshing being able to discuss these touch points and why having a vision as a business owner, and furthermore, even our own personal goals that play a major role in this direction of moving forward. Guys, I do want to ask again, where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? Where do you see yourself? What kind of goals do you have set? Do you have a whole list of goals? What are you doing right now to achieve those? And so we'd love to hear back from you. We'd love to hear your comments, hear where you're kind of coming from, and maybe some things that you're struggling with to obtain those goals and set those visions. So let us know. Let's interact, and we'd love to hear from you. So again, take care, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you.